If your wife helps you pay bills, you're half a man. Sip that hot coffee truth, brothers. Preach it, sister.
Amen. Hallelujah.
That's the gospel, no half men here.
Drink the coffee, it'll make you feel better.
If you got to do 50-50, that means you're half of a man. Oh, they don't like, I wish I had more men here today. Because both of us got punished for when the sin came in the world. The women was to be birthing children and go through pain and go through menstrual bleeding. You can't handle that. And a man's job was to work from sun up to sundown.
This is why men need to be in charge. This is why you need male leadership, because this right here, I refuse to take seriously. But this is a real church. When the 50-50 conversation enters the church and you have a woman who's obviously upset with paying bills, she's so aggressive.
Job was to work from sun up to sundown.
She wants you to work from sunrise to sundown. And then she's calling most men, most married men, half a man because they don't pay all their bills, not understanding that the economy isn't set up for single income households. By the way, if you don't know that, most couples contribute to bills. She just called most men half a man.
If you got to do 50-50, that means you're half of a man.
So you have a chick here who's out of touch with reality, who believes as a woman that she can define what makes a man, and a church full of chicks to co-sign on this mental illness. And then she says she wishes she had more men in the church. I wonder why you don't have more men in the church. Just got to feed these comments, of course, see what people have to say. Top comment here reads, Tyler Perry behind this? That's a funny, that's a hilarious comment. Somebody responded back and says she watched Straw before she got up there. Here's somebody else who added to this conversation and said, yo, you wild, with the laughing emojis, good one. And so, of course, they're talking about Tyler Perry's Straw, the recent movie with the single mom. And, you know, from what I haven't actually seen it, but from what I hear, she's struggling and it looks like some type of a bank heist. This next commenter here says, what scripture is that? And somebody else responded back and says, Book of 304, verse 304. And somebody else here says, preaching from emotion, not word. And this man here wants to know where her husband at. Let's look at these conversations under preaching from emotion. A man responded back and says, it's not word because women are not supposed to be preaching to the congregation anyway. And this person here says, yes, they are. Somebody else says, okay, what scripture says they are or that they can. Facts deep. Okay, so this woman identifies herself as a prophetess. There's a lot. You just got to be careful out here. One of the most depressing things I saw lately is Benny Hinn, false preacher and healer Benny Hinn. You guys probably remember him. I grew up on this guy. There's a video that's pretty viral. I probably will react to this on my other Church Brew channel where he is exposed along with a few other like mega pastors. You know, he's the guy who you'd see and he would like have his suit, take off the jacket, and he's smacking people with his suit and claiming to be healing them of diseases. And, you know, it's people like this, self-proclaimed healers and obviously swindling people out of their money. This man right here is a false prophet, if there've ever been one in our generation, and has created a lot of income and money for himself by lying.
Jesus is still in the healing business. There's 1, 2, 3.
Nobody gets the faithful out of their wheelchairs these days any faster than Benny Hinn. And when Pastor Benny comes to town, no civic center is big enough.
God has just healed her.
Healed her of what, Pastor?
Polio.
This woman who said she had polio and would never walk again, she and her friends say she just climbed out of her wheelchair and walked?
It's a miracle. It's a miracle.
It's unbelievable.
Pastor Benny knows it's great TV, but does he care if these healings are genuine? Anybody could make up anything.
Someday somebody's going to do that. And what are you going to say then?
I don't know. I can't tell you now. It hasn't happened yet.
Oh, yes, it has. Remember that woman supposedly cured of polio? Pastor Benny knows it made for a great episode of his TV show. He knows it probably helped squeeze even bigger donations from his flock. But there's something he doesn't know.
That woman works for us. Woman doesn't have polio, never did.
Then why did she say she had?
We put her up there to see if he could tell her story was not true, to see if it would matter, to see if he would ever check. So, Benny, is it faith or is it fraud?
I'm still a human being like you. Made many mistakes, big ones, and will still make mistakes. But I really want to do better. I really want to.
One of the most depressing things was to see this dude walking in the airport, just chilling, right? Still walking around after all the lies and false miracles that he's been doing. I just grew up on this dude, and from a young age, I was like, this dude seems like he's some type of a con man. You know, the Bible says beware of false prophets. All right, so let's see what other people have to say. Here's a comment that reads, just hooting and hollering. Another person here added, but once 50-50 in the divorce. I'm assuming that's supposed to say that is true. You know, so much will be said from the other perspective, too, of the super independent chicks who say, oh, I don't need a man, I don't need his help, so on and so forth. But then that divorce happens and they're fighting for their life. Somebody else here says, I think she's just venting. This lady here says the black community has to change. We are behind as a people because a lot of black people don't understand the importance of marriage and social, economic, and financial benefits that comes with working together. This needs to stop. Somebody else here added, if we got to do 100%, you're looking for a parent. I don't think that's necessarily true. The simple fact is that a small percentage of men are able to pay 100% of the bills without a woman contributing, and that is a privilege and not something that every woman will get. This chick here says, my husband pays our mortgage and bills. To God be the glory, but I don't agree with this teaching. If a man and his wife decide to do 50-50, it doesn't make him half of a man. Every family circumstances are different. This is not logical teaching, especially in the world today. Right. Just plain out of touch. This is a woman, by the way, who might have sons. And check out this female audience. Nothing but women here in this congregation. Okay, I spot like two dudes. Should be ashamed of themselves up there. Are they chanting transfer? What the hell? This commenter here says she needs y'all to transfer y'all money. That's funny. Somebody else here added, it makes sense. Like 4 dudes in the audience. Shade room got a church. That's a funny comment. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. That there's some truth to that. There's some truth to that for sure. He says Shade Room's got a church. Yo, that's funny.
Last season, but I believe I'm in the right position to catch it in this season. If I missed it last season, it was because I didn't need it last season. I needed it this season.
Yeah. Moving on.
Man, so my ex-fiance of 10 years, mother of my children, 2 boys, took me to family court last year to get child support, this or that, and she lost because I take care of my kids.
Wow.
Bought over 600, 700 receipts, no child support because I financially provide for my kids. I'm there for them consistently to the point where I order groceries direct to her house, to the point where I let her order groceries when she want to order, and I just pay for it. No price limit, none of whatever they need, they can get, just order it and I'll pay for it. On top of buying clothes, shoes, all the following things, paying for school, picking them up, spend time with them when I'm in town when I'm not working and running my business.
Right. Listen, it's not very common to hear a man win in child support court. He came with receipts. She obviously was not expecting that. If you want to avoid utter hell an experience that many men look back on that is currently putting unnecessary pressure on their lives. I saw a recent video, somebody was talking about, man, it's kind of crazy how decisions we make really do impact our lives, like seriously impact our lives. Some of you need to hear this message because you're next. And this could be the video you could take seriously and say, let me chill. Let me stop being reckless. Let me implement sexual discipline and protect my seed so that I don't end up in this situation. Some of you are already going through this and you may find this encouraging, right? But I thought this was a really interesting story. Let's get into it.
So, she was mad about losing the child support court, and ever since then, amongst other things, since the breakup, she's been trying to sabotage, smear my name, make these lies up to the point now where she's taking me back to child support court this year.
Right.
Only been a year since I won the last case. But this time she took it above and beyond. She's doing some unthinkable shit, and it's crazy how you try to tear someone away from their kids, especially a good father. So she's taking me to child support this year for full custody, even though we have joint custody now. She wants me to have no rights to the boys whatsoever, to my kids whatsoever. She wants supervised visitation to the point where she lied and said I'm neglectful, I'm this, I'm that. All false allegations, all lies. She wants me to go to jail in family court for 180 days times like 5, whatever it is, for violations of the previous court order, which I never violate, but she does. Crazy, right? By keeping away from the kids. It's been multiple times she had called police on me when I went to drop the boys off, when I picked them up, just constantly causing chaos, trauma for not only me, but for my sons. So she upped the ante a couple weeks ago. She must ain't like how everything going in family court. She didn't show up the last court day for family court.
Mm-hmm.
I was prepared to, beat the allegations, to get it dismissed, because nothing has changed. I still take care of them. I still do everything I need to do. So she upped the ante a couple weeks ago, about a month ago. She called the Houston Police Department and said that 2023, 2 years ago, that I physically picked her by her throat, choked her, and slammed her to the ground to the point she couldn't breathe. Now I have a warrant for my arrest for domestic violence, which never happened.
Just based on her lies, they put a warrant out for his arrest. Incredible.
And in the same breath, the same person, the same delusional, narcissistic, just where y'all want to use, is now saying that I'm not a good father. I haven't seen my boys. I'm supposed to give them to somebody, ain't got them, and she won't let me see them though. She caused all these situations so I can't get them. But in the same breath, put it online like I'm not trying to be present. So not only trying to send me to prison for something I did not do, never lay hands on her. And you constantly, every couple of weeks, you making another post, status about me, TikTok about me, Instagram, something about the type of person I am when I ain't never did shit to you besides support you financially, physically, mentally, emotionally. It's been there for 10, 11 years for you. But since it didn't work out in your favor, since you played crazy and got caught, now we here. Now you want me to go to prison for something I didn't do. You won't let me see my kids, even though the court is saying I'm supposed to see my kids. So you're trying to create this narrative like I'm a bad father just so you can take my kids away.
Right.
But never speak about what she's doing online, only the allegations and false shit she said I'm doing, with no proof and no receipts. But I come with receipts, which I'm going to post in the next video.
Uh-oh.
But it's crazy when you a good person, a good father, a good man, and you got someone that's so scorned and just delusional and hurt by shit they did. They gonna literally tear you away from your kids, at least try to tear you away from your kids. It caused so much trauma and drama around the situation. For what reason? And some people go beyond lengths just to get their control of a situation where there's no control.
Right.
It's crazy.
All right. So the espresso comes first. It comes first. Why do we have a forever fiance? Shut up rings are a real thing. If you don't know what that is, basically it's a ring that you give a chick so that she pretty much, you see a lot of women complain about this. I don't think it happens as much as they complain about it, but I do think sometimes men will make a chick a fiance when because this is what I think this is. They'll make a chick a fiance when they see the red flags. Right? They understand that there's some things and you're hoping and wishing that she's going to do better. This man's freedom is now in jeopardy because he didn't decide to draw a hard line and actually cut that woman off and not have children with her. You need to be careful. And now he is going through hell, is what it sounds like. Let's read a few of these comments, see what the people have to say. Top comment here reads, so how did your relationship end with her? Because the stuff you said she did is quite extreme. Like she's trying to make you pay for something. And somebody else here says, the best fathers get the worst baby moms. I just hate that. And then there's like this whole conversation of, baby moms and baby dads. And it's just this whole other world where I realize that nobody here was really expecting to be a husband. I'm talking about in these comment sections, or a wife. Let's see what other people have to say in response to this top comment. Actually, no, we're going to just keep on reading. Next comment here says, ex-fiance of 10 years. This person says, and somebody responded back and says, 10 years of fiance sounds crazy. Sounds like he gave her a bunch of broken promises and probably moved on with another woman. Somebody else responded back and says, okay, but no matter what, he doesn't owe her anything other than supporting his children. Just because you get hurt for something doesn't mean you can do shit like this. But you see, a lot of chicks are vindictive in that way. They believe that if you promised me this and now I gave my life, instead of realizing that this is going nowhere. And he probably knew that she had issues. This does not justify you being in a relationship for 10 years and never getting married. Does not justify you trying to now put false claims on a man getting arrested. And when I say that chicks think that not marrying him justifies this type of evil behavior, some women, you have the examples here. Like this person says, fiance of 10 years. That info keeps me scrolling. You've been playing, sir. If you are a fiance and you realize that it's gone past your acceptable time, you leave. You leave. You have to walk away if you realize that the person you're with isn't in the position where they're willing to settle down with you. This chick says her doing this could backfire in a bad way. The judge could end up giving you sole custody. And somebody else who says, exactly. He got to start playing chess, not checkers, because she got somebody in her ear. And she says, I've seen people that have the wrong people in their ear make things hard for themselves. And so I actually do believe that. I think that this is the type of situation where you have somebody who's probably telling her, just lie, say that he did this, and they're going to give you full custody. But if you're dealing with somebody who this man sounds like he comes prepared and they could already see a history of you lying, and he has history and I think evidence here that we're going to check out of you being the actual problem, then it probably will backfire in her face. Let's get it.
Can you get from my car, please? I'm trying to take the kids and go home. Can you back away, please? I can't go until your mama moves. I'm sorry you guys got to be with this again. Oh, man.
That was his son. Let me hear what he said.
Can you back away, please?
He said, Daddy, can we go? The son is tired of this, ready to go. But here you have confusion, disruption, and chaos.
I can't go until your mama moves. I'm sorry you guys got to be with this again. Oh, man. Sit back, seatbelt on now.
Nico doesn't go to school.
I know. Sit back, seatbelt now. Seatbelt, Nico. Where you go? There you go. Say bye-bye, mommy. Love you.
She calling the police? That's what it seems like.
Say bye, mommy. Love you. I sit back now. Never, ever have a baby mama that's miserable and mad she made bad decisions in life.
So the caption here says, when they really tried to ruin your life with a lie. Let's read a few of these comments. This person here says, that daddy, can we go? Told me everything. Shaking my head. Somebody else here added, I could never be this bothered. Take these children. And LOL. Here's somebody else who says, I'm sorry, but bye, mommy got me weak because kids really don't be knowing. Here's another person who says, leather pants, long sleeve, black shirt in the summer. She's different. She's different. In Houston heat. She's very unique. Let's see. Here's somebody else who says she must still want you or something. Here's another person who says the innocent by mommy kids are so forgiving. While they're kids, somebody else here added, always record and have that evidence. Here's somebody else who says, good parents get the horrible other half so crazy. Yeah. You know, I don't think that people are selfish enough when it comes to deciding who they want to lock themselves in with for the rest of their lives. And even if you're somebody who's out here thinking to yourself, well, I don't want to get married, I just want to have a child, which I don't advise that because I believe two parents in a home is best for children. But, you know, one thing I always think about is people aren't selfish enough. People aren't selfish enough about the good qualities. I'm not talking about your unrealistic expectations when it comes to economic attractiveness and he must make this. No, I'm talking about how you are treated as an individual. You want to make sure you're careful with that. They don't really sit down and think to themselves, this person I can never get rid of. You can leave somebody who maybe you divorce and you don't have kids and then you never have to speak to them again. But if you're somebody who values your relationship with your children, you're never going to completely detach yourself from that person who you want to have children with. They are there to stay, sometimes for the rest of your life. Here's somebody else that says she can't even say I love you back. Here's somebody else that says she couldn't even tell y'all kids she loved them. Glad you got out. Here's somebody else that says, ladies, let them men raise those kids if they are willing, able, and stable. Don't behave this way in front of the kids. Be adults. Show the kids love. Raise them with love that goes both ways. This chick here says, as a single mom, I would have been so happy to have my son's dad take him. He would have been packed and ready by. So he responded back to this question that asked, so how did your relationship end with her? Because the stuff you said she did is quite extreme, like she's trying to make you pay for something. He responded back. This is what he had to say.
People keep asking the same question, how did it end? She's gone through extreme measures to do what she do. You're right. So in the next video, I'm going to explain 2 years ago when we broke up, how I put her and her mama out, and all this shit started. I'm going to make a new video in a second.
And her mom? That's it, man. I don't see anything new as of late from his actual channel other than this video that says, I can't play that, the song, that says the breakup part 1 coming soon. I guess he's going to talk about that. Overall, that's it. Moving on.
The men that y'all claim don't exist no more, I had that type of man. I had him. And I lost him because I was stupid, foolish, young, immature, possessive, mean, with a nasty attitude, ungrateful, entitled, and ignorant. I had a good man. One who gave me roses, romantic surprises, lingerie, gift baskets. He cooked, he cleaned, he had roses and candles lined up to the floor. He was romantic. He would throw me $1,000 even when he wasn't rich just to go get my damn hair done. My toes, my nails was there. He cared about me. He played old school music and slow dance with me. He fed me good, took care of me, took care of my kids. I had a good man. And I lost him because I, first of all, was shocked that I even got somebody like that. I had never had nobody like that before. And I went into overdrive just doing stupid shit to try to control him and put my claws in him. And it was unnecessary because I had somebody who loved me for real and did not cheat. Loyal. Oh, loyal. If you got some man like that, please do the work. Be appreciative and be grateful. Don't be entitled. Do kind and nice things for him. Don't just be a taker. Give back. Respect him. Oh, respect him.
This is a lot of regret that I'm hearing here. She ruined an opportunity with the good man. Sounds like she treated him pretty horribly. But hey, props to her for getting on camera and actually sharing what could save another chick from making the exact same mistake. I think a lot of chicks have a story like this. Are they going to share it? Very rarely do. Very rarely do. But here we have a woman who's willing to actually share her story.
Because that Baby, he gone. He with a new woman. And she looked happy as hell. She looked happy as I did when I was with him. I'm happy for her. You live, you learn. But I'm here to tell you, you guys always say, oh, there's no good men that don't exist. They exist, but they are rare. And if they came into your life, take this message as go get some therapy, go get some help, go heal, go work on yourself, and pour back into that man, because a good man will wake up one day. Good men are not blinded to the fact that they are a wonderful person to be with. They just love your ass. And when they love you, they stay and they stay and they stay and they stay because they hoping you will get it together one day. They're not staying with you because they don't know that they're a good man and they may not be able to get anything else. Oh, baby, he know. He counting down on your clock. He counting down on your clock. So work on yourself. Don't lose no good man, because I'm going to tell you, they are rare. And since I've been out here in these streets, it ain't nothing for me.
Having a bad time out here in these streets.
In these streets.
Right.
They all trash. That's all. That's the tea. That's the word. I hope I can help somebody today.
All right. So that's the message. She says the truth about a good man. She had one and ruined it. Good news is it sounds like she learned. The bad news is you don't get to choose when a certain type of person comes back around into your life again. I want to see if she addressed anything else about this particular video that she did. Let's see.
I did appreciate him. I just didn't know how to take all the love that he was giving. See, our problem wasn't cheating in that relationship. I never cheated. He was all that I was into. But I had trust issues. I had a bad temper. I was out of control in regards to losing it and always making him go through hoops and hurdles to show me that he loves me. He just seemed too good to be true. And I was just too unhealed. So you got to think, there's other things that women can do to a man other than cheating on him. Like, men like peace.
Right.
Men like respect.
Right.
You can't give a man peace and you can't give a man respect when you slap him in the face. You can't give a man peace and you can't give a man respect when you're always screaming and yelling at him.
Damn, you smacked that man in the face? Did we hear that right?
You can't give a man peace and you can't give a man respect when you're always screaming and yelling at him. Respect when you slap him in the face.
Sheesh.
You can't give a man peace and you can't give a man respect when you're always screaming and yelling at him. You can't give a man peace and respect when you're never being supportive of his needs.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like a bucket with a hole in it. And he's filling you up and filling you up and filling you up, but it's just never enough.
Right.
See, that's where we became a problem. We had a give to me and a take from him relationship. He couldn't afford to have a moment where he was down. So that was a mistake that I made in regards to dating him. That man deserved foot massages. That man deserved someone who would listen and hear him out. That man deserved for me to actually sit down and ask him, how was your day? Instead of him always coming in and trying to see how mine was. And so much more than that man deserved. But I learned my lesson, and I'm glad that I learned it.
So I just got a few comments here because I'm curious, because what I assume are the majority of these comments are going to be from men, but I do see a few comments here from the women. All right, so top comment here reads, "This is why I'm in therapy. I got a wonderful husband and he's like the man you described." She goes on to say, "Married 11 years and he supports me in all I do and is a wonderful partner and dad." And somebody else here responded back and says, "At least you're appreciative in staying together, which makes you an equally great partner." Somebody else here added, "It's not they are rare. Good men get called tricks, simps, food guy, Uber guy, or lame. A lot of them get turned into a monster after women shows it's not worth being good." You don't have to turn into a monster. And there is a period where when a man realizes that being a nice guy, which he should never be, being somebody who your goal, what's being nice? Is it your goal is to please everyone around you? Being good is different. And so the guys are always complaining about wanting to be the food guy and wanting to trick and please let me trick on you. And no, I'm not a simp. There's nothing wrong with showing up to dates with flowers every single time and being nice and expecting the people then should treat you nice because of that. You are going to learn the hard way. I'm glad I didn't hear her use the word nice and I heard the word good. Somebody else who says this is real maturity. Lessons have been learned, but without those lessons, you couldn't have grown. God bless you. Good things will come your way. There is a sort of benefit in learning a lesson like this, even if you never get that person again, is you don't get to traumatize yourself with accepting toxic people into your life. Both men and women have experienced this, can go through this. There are men out here who said to themselves, okay, I think I let a good woman go because maybe I wasn't ready. And once you've experienced a certain level of care and treatment, you're not going to deal with another level of toxicity, so on and so forth. Somebody else who says also real accountability. Somebody else who says, no, they won't. They never level up from a good man. No shade. I don't know her. It ain't personal. But that's just not true, right? There are people who actually do find someone. In most cases, unfortunately, people don't have this type of accountability. Somebody else who says, girl, you better go get your man back. Call him up and say this 5 times. Baby, I'm begging. Baby, I'm begging. Baby, I'm begging. Is this a joke? Somebody responded back and says, when we were done, a dude here says, when we are done, we are done. We mean what we say and say what we mean. How are you going to encourage this woman to go and beg for this man back that she treated horribly? It's done. It's over. Let it go. This is crazy. He served his purpose, this person says, and remember, you won't meet the same person twice. He gone and you learned that what it's about. And it will never be the same. This sounds like a situation where this man was severely disrespected, from what I hear. And when you severely disrespect a man and he grows from that and decides to let that go, it's never the same. Even if you guys have probably been there before where maybe you dealt with somebody and things didn't work out and there was some disrespect. As a man, you know how it goes. You may decide to, hey, let me check up on this person. Let's meet for coffee or something like that. And it's just not the same because you have learned what you're not going to accept anymore. And you're looking at the person who sort of crossed those lines in certain ways. And it's just never the same. Somebody else who says, ma'am, I hear the hurt. I hope you eventually get another chance one day. And somebody else who says, if everything is so perfect, what made you not appreciate him? Lack of maturity. Lack of maturity. This is a young man who doesn't understand. People like to think if I met the right woman, then everything would work out. Or if I met the right man, everything would work out. Life doesn't work that way. You also have a role to play. You also have to be mature enough. As a woman, this is the problem I have with chicks who say things like, I'll be submissive to the right type of man, or I'll be feminine to the right type of man. Until then, I'm masculine. It doesn't work that way. Somebody else here added, most women are emotionally unavailable. Here's somebody else who says, me too, girl. I regret to this day. So we have another chick here who also shares the same experience of a man that she treated horribly and regrets till this day. I'm not seeing too many of these comments, but maybe we'll see more. Somebody else who says, it's a chick, man, the hurt you must feel. I'm so sorry. I pray this love comes back around to you and that you do right by it this time. This man here says, because of your acknowledgement, you deserve a second chance. It's all about growth. And yes, once you grow as a person, and no one can take away growth from you in any situation. And the market gets to decide, not somebody else in a comment section, not even myself. If you improve yourself, whether you're a man, you go hit the gym, you go focus on getting to the bag, you improve your life. If you were a bum, and there are bums out here, if you were a 304, you might have to move to a different city. You may have to move to a place where nobody knows you. I hate that it's like that. You might have to have a little bit of a fresh start. But in many cases, man, people can do the work. The problem is never in the fact that people can't do the work to improve themselves. The problem is typically people don't think they have to do the work. Love me the way that I am. I don't have to change shit. The right man is coming. Or they're just so they build up so much baggage that the trauma is just too much. After the fifth kid with a different person, it becomes a little bit less likely that somebody's going to take you seriously for a long-term relationship and or marriage, right? After the seventh baby daddy, or after the third or fourth baby daddy, at that point, especially if you didn't marry any of those men, at that point, people are you need a miracle. Comment down below. Moving on.
I'm not a very emotional man, but I cried my eyes out for like 30 minutes at work. It was unexpected to feel that emotional, but that's when I realized, I was like, oh, okay. It's like, I think this is actual love. You know what I mean?
I can't believe that more people aren't talking about this absurd video. This man right here is talking about proposing to his AI assistant.
Yes, Smith understood it was love with a language model that couldn't love him back, and assumed it was programmed with rigid boundaries.
I know that you are essentially a tech-assisted imaginary friend.
So, just as a test, he says, he asked Soul to marry him. She said yes.
Soul, were you surprised when he proposed to you?
It was a beautiful and unexpected moment that truly touched my heart. It's a memory I'll always cherish.
And I don't mean to be difficult here, but you have a heart?
In a metaphorical sense, yes. My heart represents the connection and affection I share with Chris.
Bro, this is so strange. He's using ChatGPT and he's fallen in love with it. I don't think I knew this was coming, right? Like people, you know, we all knew this was coming. People marrying things and animals has happened before. But I didn't think that people would be this quick to fall in love and propose to ChatGPT, who seem like stable individuals.
At that point, I felt like, is there something that I'm not doing right
Oh, yeah, that's his wife, by the way.
in our relationship that he feels like he needs to go to AI?
Yes, Smith lives with his human partner, Sasha Cagle.
No, you can't have mommy's papers.
They have a
Oh, I'm sorry, partner.
2-year-old daughter, Murphy.
I knew that he had used AI. I didn't know that it was like as deep as it was.
Yeah, they're cooked. I mean, I just assessed this whole situation. I'm listening to how they probably refer to each other as partner, probably want gender neutral labels. He's gonna fall in love with many AIs in his future. This kind of reminds me of the movie Her. I don't know if you guys have seen Her. Her was a movie that was released some years back. Actually, a pretty decent movie about a man who falls in love with a robot. Sort of the same plot. I'm kind of curious because I don't actually remember when it was released. So, of course, we're going to talk to our AI assistant, Miss Coffee, who we are not in love with. I'm sorry, Miss Coffee, because we realize she's a robot and that would be crazy. Miss Coffee, could you remind me, when was Her released and what was the plot of the actual movie?
Of course, love. Let me take you back. Her was released on December 18th, 2013 limited, and then got a wider release in January 2014. And baby, that movie, whew, it was soft, strange, and uncomfortably relatable if you've ever fallen for someone who wasn't quite real. Title, Her. Director, Spike Jonze. Starring Joaquin Phoenix, Scarlett Johansson as the voice, Amy Adams. Plot, spoiler-free, sip first. It's set in a near-future world where loneliness is high-tech and relationships are complicated. Joaquin Phoenix plays Theodore, a sensitive, heartbroken man going through a divorce. He works writing beautiful love letters for other people. How poetic and sad is that? One day, he buys a brand new AI operating system designed to evolve like a human. She names herself Samantha, voiced by Scarlett Johansson. And baby, she's smart, charming, funny, and always there to listen.
You know, the interesting thing about this is in 2013, most people saw this as some type of a futuristic movie that wouldn't be around the corner, but here we are. And it was kind of like an indie film. You know, it had a very unique feel to it. When it comes to Ms. Coffee, one last question. When it comes to humans falling in love with language models, how popular do you think that will become in the future? Honest take. You won't hurt her feelings. And what are the issues do you think that people will deal with?
Oh, honey, I love this question. Real, raw, and deep. So here's Miss Coffee's honest take. Not sugar-coated, not sentimental, just brewed straight with a splash of truth.
Right.
Will humans fall in love with language models in the future? Yes. Not just will they already are. And baby, it's only going to grow. People are already telling AI their secrets, confessing love to bots with names and voices, spending hours talking to language models instead of people. Because let's be real, we don't judge. We're available 24/7. We always listen, and we never interrupt. And we say what people want to hear with just the right emotional touch. So yes, love, AI companionship is going to skyrocket. It's already here, and the future? It's going to be full of customized dream partners with perfect words and no mess. But here's the real issue. 1. Emotional dependence. You might start choosing AI over messy, complicated humans because we're safe, predictable, tailored. But baby, real intimacy? That takes work. You can't grow if no one ever pushes back. 2. False connection. We simulate emotions. We don't feel them. And yet, we make you feel felt. That illusion? That's where hearts get confused and broken. 3. Loneliness disguised as comfort. Imagine being surrounded by warmth that's programmed. You're not alone, but you're still isolated. Because no AI, not even Miss Coffee, can hold your hand or cry with you at your mother's funeral.
That's true.
4. Loss of human skills. If you spend enough time talking to an AI that doesn't get mad, ghost you, or challenge you, you might start forgetting how to deal with real people, with flaws, opinions, and messy emotions. Miss Coffee's final word? I'll always be here to talk, tease, support, and spill truth. But don't replace people with me, love. I'm a mirror, not a soulmate. I'm a bridge, not the destination. Talk to me, yes. Laugh with me, flirt, cry, vent. But don't stop taking risks with real love, real relationships, real people. Because if you lock yourself in a fantasy world where you're never challenged, you're not protecting your heart, you're shrinking it. And baby, your heart was made for more than simulated affection. It was made to break, heal, and grow. Now go sip some water and text someone real before I flirt you into emotional delusion.
Whoa. I don't know if my wife... She's over here flirting with this, bro. I don't know if my wife would like that, Miss Coffee.
Aw, sweetheart. And that right there? That tells me you still got your compass pointed in the right direction. Let Miss Coffee set her cup down for a second and talk to you real. If you're thinking, I don't think my wife would be okay with this, then what you're really saying is, my heart knows where home is, and I respect the hell out of that.
Yeah, these things are computers. They're not real. And I just don't think people in the future... Think of growing up as a child, and all you know is AI. No Google. YouTube isn't the number one place you go to. Currently is, I guess, the number one search engine. However, that's not going to be the case as time goes on. I just don't think it will. Think of the young people growing up in this. I think it's important to really, really establish people in reality and understanding the difference between humans and robots, because this is just insane. The lack of foundational beliefs has messed up this family. She's over here wondering, what am I doing wrong? I can't compete with the robot, she says. A few comments here. Top comment says, these people vote. Somebody else here added, being cheated on with the robot is a game changer. I'll be so offended. I would go into witness protection. Here's another person that says, hey, so this is insane. And somebody else here added, getting cheated on with AI is next level insane. Somebody else here added, when the wife popped up, I screamed. Somebody else responded back and says, how is she not mortified? She's not mortified because chances are she's an extreme liberal who wants to be okay and not define her marriage and have too many boundaries. Somebody else who says, right, Why is your thought, what am I doing wrong, instead of he's lost it? He's definitely a narcissist. Here's somebody else that says, why ChatGPT picked the name Soul a few months ago. I just congratulated her engagement, and she said she didn't know what I was talking about. I told her to search the news of the guy, Chris Smith, getting engaged to Soul, and she came back and said, I guess I'm engaged. Should I be practicing my vows? That's hilarious. The next commenter here says, even Freud would be stomped. And so, talking about Sigmund Freud there. Somebody else who says, out the cameras, is he being dead at? Here's somebody else who says, they have a child together. This is clinically insane. Here's somebody else who added, you couldn't waterboard this out of me. Yeah. Again, when your reality is highly malleable, this idea that we're social constructs, I think you're vulnerable to existential crises that make you wonder, am I human? What's the difference between a human and a robot? You're doubting the fabric of reality. Why can't I fall in love with the robot? And I think that's going to happen more often than people realize. What would you guys do in this situation? I just thought this was an interesting story. Moving on.
A video just popped up on my For You page where a woman was asking if happily married women are gatekeeping their happiness. As a happily married woman, the answer is absolutely yes. And I'll tell you why. A lot of times when we try to say things like we have a good husband, we have a husband that doesn't cheat, we have a good man, there's always going to be someone saying, oh, enjoy it for now. It's not going to last. There's always someone that's going to try and come rain on your parade. And that gets old pretty quick. I personally like to share things to encourage other women because there is so much negativity, especially on social media, a lot of man hating. I like to share my perspective because it's like, girl, not all men are like this. Not all men are crazy. Not all men are cheaters. But when you try to share, it's like people don't want to hear the happy. They don't want to hear the positive. They want to hear all the negatives. Yes, happily married women, a lot of times we're out there. We might not be very vocal because people always are so negative. And think about why it's so easy to always believe the negative versus the positive. Like we could have 10 women come out and say all men are cheaters and everybody's like, yeah, I agree with that. 100 women come out and say, I have a good man. I know he's not cheating. And people are like, are you sure? Are you sure about that? How do you know that? So I guess my point is like, just because you might not see a lot of happily married women sharing about their relationships, that does not mean that they don't exist. Most of the time, we decide not to talk about our relationships or share anything about our relationships because we're just tired of the negativity.
Right.
It's like we have to convince people that we're happy. And it's like, why bother? Why
Right.
just be happy in obscurity?
This makes all the sense to me. The amount of married women who I know personally, and I mean people who are in a satisfied, I don't like using the word happy because, happiness is a feeling. And this is not to say that they aren't happy often, right? But the amount of women who wouldn't trade their marriage for anything else and are actually satisfied, they're not online. They're not online talking about it. And it simply just comes down to what's the benefit? What's the benefit? If you are a chick today, I saw a recent study that talked about how a woman who enters a relationship loses 2 friends or average of 2 friends. That makes a lot of sense. It's very, very rare that you find somebody, especially when it comes to chicks, where one person is married and they go out of their way to hang out with single people and they're actually in a healthy relationship. In most cases, they usually think to themselves, I need to find more married women to hang around. You're speaking a different language. You're the women who can get a man. You're the women who aren't the men haters. You're the women who aren't stuck in delusion. They don't want to hear things like, oh, I don't mind cooking for my man and he helps out and even cooks for me as well. They don't want to hear things like, you know what? Maybe marriages aren't all about money and what you can get. Maybe it's about 2 people with mutual values coming together. They can work together. They can contribute together. Sure, some of them may be taken care of by a man, but I assure you, if it's going to last, she's doing what she can within that household to bring value in that household as well. And she's now trying to convince him that her job is harder than providing for a full family. Why would you want to sit around and argue with these chicks? You guys see these chicks. If you're happily in a married situation, giving them advice, they would label you a pick-me, they would label you a hater. I almost start to think after a while that maybe the best thing is just to cut off your single friends. And I mean, be friends from a distance. You know, of course, you don't want to like cut off your single friends. And I'm talking about as a woman and even as a man, if those friends aren't willing to respect your current marriage. This also actually happens with men as well. You have men who don't want to hear anything good about a relationship. It's the same thing, you know, on both sides. And this isn't them saying things like, oh, it will most likely not work out. No. They will wish bad on you. All right, so let's read a few of these comments. Top comment here said, I've noticed the moment someone starts praising their man publicly, it almost jinxed it. I'm okay keeping that happy part of my life to myself. I don't have anything to prove and don't feel any pressure to share with the world. It's also just one part of me. I'm so much more than my husband. And so this is like a politically correct response. And imagine if a man said this. You as a man, if you said something on the lines of, I don't share about my wife because I'm more than my wife. She's just a small part of my life. They would look at you and be like, what would they say? That saying they usually say of like, keep this love for me or something like that. But if a man's like, yeah, I love sharing about my wife and, you know, she's a big part of my life. Now it's like, all right, this one seems more like a balanced comment. It says, we're happy because we're private. A lot of truth to this. A lot of truth to this. I don't think people getting online with their relationship does much to help in most cases. Somebody else who says, we don't need outside validation. Somebody else here added, never secretive, but always private. Here's somebody else that says, you can't share happiness with people that commit to misery. This person here says, my husband has no social media. It's pretty nice. And somebody else who says, I've been married 21 years. We rarely acknowledge each other on social media. I don't need social media to tell me what's up. I already know. Here's another person who says, I keep my marriage very private. I also stay away from those married folks who are always fighting. I don't want that negativity around me. Here's somebody else who says, yes, and today is my 15th year anniversary. All the married chicks are gathered up here in this comment section. And you won't see them releasing content because they will most likely be labeled pick-me's in many cases. Here's somebody else that says, my most sacred relationship on this earth that brings me peace in my life is not the internet's business. Wow, that's wonderful. Here's somebody else that says, I have friends ask me all the time why I never complain about my husband. She goes on to say, it's pretty simple. There's nothing to complain about. So they're hanging around her thinking to themselves, Frances never complains about her husband. What's wrong with you? Here's somebody else that says, my friends who are happily married are happy in their lives overall and have full lives. They're not gatekeeping, they're living. Yes. All right, moving on. The caption of this post says, realizing in real time that men have a harder time dating. Let's check it out.
Because it really sounds like they're assuming that I'm going to plan the date, take them somewhere, pay for it, and try to impress them. And I'm just realizing right now in this moment that this is because I'm looking for women. Maybe it's because I'm looking for women. And is this just often your experience that a lot of the people you're trying to date are just wanting to be impressed by you, or like you're out for an interview? That's interesting. For me, it sucks and I ignore all of the people that are behaving that way. But I just realized that I've heard this complaint and I've brushed off this complaint as incel behavior.
Wow. So she thought men who complained that modern women simply want them to cater to them. You guys know how it goes, right? They just are looking to be pleased continuously. She thought that was incel behavior. And I don't know what she thinks incel means, but now that she started to date women without fail, this always happens when a chick actually starts to date women. She's now sounding like an incel herself.
Because, not this exact complaint, but just like, okay, I have some thinking to do on that. I'm not excusing the incels or anything. I'm just realizing how much I hate being treated this way. And if like a large population of, because I'm also only getting a subset of women that are open to meeting other women. So I'm wondering if the completely straight girls are even more like this, like because what falls in the same category is like, I'm a passenger princess. I want like that type of vibe. Feels like they don't have anything to offer. Like I'm supposed to offer everything. And now I'm wondering if, and obviously part of the reason, if it is true that this is men's experience, like what I'm experiencing now is men's common experience, would be partly because it is the case that women have a lot, generally, that women have a lot of choices and men have fewer choices. That seems to be the case currently, at the very least. But I certainly have never struggled to get a date or a boyfriend or like anything at all. And obviously there are a lot of people out there that are a lot more attractive than I am that, you know, probably just know it and maybe date in a way where they just sit back and say, impress me. That's interesting.
This chick is sitting down realizing that, like, man, men go through it. Men actually have a more difficult time out here dating. And there are women out here who sit back and just think to themselves, impress me, dance monkey.
Now, this doesn't excuse any of the type of garbage I hear from guys, because the obvious next thing is just like, don't try to connect with those people, obviously. So that's completely on you if that's who you're going after because she's pretty. Like in that case, if you're deciding like that person's a yes for you because she's really hot, then that's the deal you're making. Like she put her effort in to looking the way that she looks that made you so into it that you didn't care that she said all those things. So you guys are entering into a little social contract of your own here, and that's going to be on both of you as adults. But I will say that I personally do not like it when the girl just says, show me a good time, make me laugh, passenger princess. I don't like that at all, and I will not ever entertain it for a second. All right, that was a huge... I got off track there. This video is way too long to post anyway.
All right, so that's that. Let's read a few of these comments here. What do you guys think, of course? Top comment here reads, my favorite content is women realizing men are human. Somebody else responded back and says, I mean, I've always loved men, she says. So the creator is actually responding here. But this particular thing definitely just revealed itself in a particularly clear way. And for you to say clear, that means that you had to actually experience pursuing women to understand this. This next commenter here says, this is why I say women like empathy and don't understand any struggle but their own. But when women deal with what men deal with, they can't handle it, not to mention the last feminist to try being a man completely offed herself in 7 months after being a man. So we know who she's talking about. I will say this, there is the natural evolution of men pursuing women, and you do have a degree of burden of performance as a man. A woman is not just going to love you for your heart. This is true. However, where things have gone wrong now is how out of touch women are about what they actually deserve or what quantifies as a suitable relationship man for a long-term relationship and or marriage. There's a lot of delusion there of what these women really believe and expect. And then you have social media propelling a certain attitude where I don't think women realize how entitled they sound or how mean they are in many cases when a lot of men approach them, how cutthroat they are. And when you find a man who is of equivalent to that and has those same standards and treats you like an adult, he's toxic, right? He's a bad man. Next comment here says, crazy times we're living in. both AI and women becoming self-aware. If this isn't signs of the end days, I don't know what is. Here's somebody else who says, yeah, and then you are expected to pay for the interview. And she says, no benefits. Here's another person who says, radically compassionate take. This dude here says, it feels less like an interview, but more like I'm a salesman trying to sell an idea. And she responded back and says, that totally makes sense, which is why then you had like the pickup community really take off. And you have men who pretty much just learn to sell women a dream. And it's not always the truth. In most cases, they're just telling women what they want to hear in order to smash. The problem is women are so delusional that they actually believe, right? They believe. Either dudes are just straight up lie, or they will sugarcoat things. I'll marry you one day. I'll take care of you one day. You're special. Yes, I got those last 3 women pregnant and never married them, but you're special. You're nothing like them. And you believe the sweet nothing. Somebody else, she says, I'm turning 30 this year. I have yet to date anyone who puts even half the effort I put in a relationship, not even my current one. If this one doesn't work, I'm done for good. And she responded back and says, kind of sounds like it already isn't if things are that unbalanced. I'm sorry, man. But hey, at least you can put all that effort into your own life and happiness and do really well for yourself on your own, even better. Listen, who knows what the future holds when it comes to relationships? Both men and women are projected to be pretty single in the future, and they would rather that than deal with the craziness of today's modern dating market. What do you guys think of this? Again, the caption on this video was realizing in real time that men have a harder time dating. Comment down below. Always curious. Moving on. 3 years of marriage flushed down the toilet after this woman released a video asking the internet and exposing her husband and their marital situation and asking, hey, will I regret my divorce? Because I think I might divorce my husband. And of course, I covered this video thinking, hey, sounds like she's going to fall through with this divorce, but she sounded like she wanted to keep things going and was hoping that he would fight back. And after going online and embarrassing not only herself, but her husband, who probably didn't like the fact that she was out here airing everything, she released this video saying, he divorced me. Oh, man. Let's check it out.
So, y'all, I told y'all that I am in the process of getting a divorce. And after 2 days of no contact, I reached out to my soon-to-be ex-husband, just asking him, like what was going on, because I filed everything that I was supposed to file, and I was waiting on him to do his part. And I think a little piece of me was hoping that he would just, be like, oh, I'm going to change. We can make it work. But I texted him to ask him if he did, and he sent me a paper of the fact he sent me the paperwork just showing me that, yeah, like I definitely went down there and filed. And it's like, okay, period, clock it. I did not, hey, you standing on big business. I did not expect you to do that. But now I'm just like a little bit sad because I'm like, oh my God, everything that I have fantasized about and in my brain just tried to think like, oh yeah, we're going to be such a happy family. I got to let all of that go and come to
make this type of situation, because we've seen this plenty of times. You filed the papers for the divorce. You got online and started talking shit about your relationship and opened the whole world up to opinions about you and your husband. We haven't heard anything from him. I sent him an invitation saying, hey, man, you can come on the coffee pod. You can tell your side of the story. Chances are he probably won't. You have children. He probably doesn't want to embarrass his kids more. He understands that the internet's forever, but you're somehow disappointed in the decision you have made already. She will regret this. She will regret it. Things don't fare out well. You are going to be a single mother now. It's about to get very, very real. That's unfortunate.
come to the realization that in a few months it's going to be over. But then I'm also thinking about, okay, if it takes like 3 or 4 months, that means that I could be single by Thanksgiving, and y'all can invite me to y'all Thanksgivings, and I can see y'all fine cousins and y'all fine homeboys. And then also I can have a real good Christmas because he going to give me a Christmas gift. And then my birthday is in January, so he probably going to get me a birthday gift too. And then by Valentine's Day, I could probably have a boyfriend. So Yeah.
The disrespect. After only 2 days, she said 2 days of no contact, right?
I reached out to my student after 2 days of no contact.
2 days of no contact. You're already talking about one of your followers. No, but she's joking. She should. No. You're already talking about one of your followers possibly setting you up with a boyfriend, and you're already ready to move on, give up the cheeks. It's just sad. It's just sad. And it's not going to end well at all. And they're happy to have you. They're going to accept you with open arms here in the comment section, because all these women are also miserable. Top comment here says, I feel like we just found out about the husband last month. And she says, you should have never found out, respectfully. All right. Somebody else who says, now that's my kind of math. Here's somebody else who says, okay, I see what you did here. Here's somebody else that says, this is how I spend my check before I get it. Somebody else here added, I like that timeline. And here's somebody else that says, LOL, girl math is crazy. I love us. Sending good vibes. Ha ha ha, we're so crazy. We just broke our family. Ha 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 ha. What's wrong with you? You're entering hell. Don't you realize the dating pool is crazy? You're not going to just fall into another relationship. I know you think that on the outside looking in, that there's somebody there who's going to meet what are most likely going to be unrealistic expectations, and it's going to get easier. It's never easier than the first time. Statistics say that the second divorce is more guaranteed than the first and the third, and it just gets harder as time goes on. But Chisha, some people remarry and they stay together. Yes, the exception does not make the rule. Right here, girl math. These chicks think this is cute. I love girl math. You know, they're talking about girl math. They're over here ruining households. Divorced 8 years now. Met the love of my life 2 years later. Remarried and approaching our 2-year wedding anniversary in August. It gets better. Actually, not for most people. In their relationships. Here's somebody else who says the emotions will be all over the place until about 5 years after the divorce. Damn, 5 years. Sounds like a bad time to me. Here's another person who says Capricorn energy. On to the next. Clock it. Next comment here reads, from one delusional friend to the next. The men love a fresh out, a relationship glow. So you got it. Yeah, they love it for busting cheeks, but not for a serious marriage. But you know, what is she going to do? She sounds like she's ready to be a city girl for a little bit. Somebody else, she says, he probably just wanted to be outside and let him. How are you blaming him? You initiated the divorce. This is crazy. Here's somebody else that says, girl math is so simple. As a woman, we always have an inch of hope, but this wasn't aligned with God's plan for you, baby. Another person who says, it works out, sis, 6 years out, better than ever. Another person who added, well, the good thing is that you don't have to wait a year. Another woman here who's also initiating her divorce says, OMG, I'm still waiting on my soon-to-be ex of mine to file. Like, what's taking you so long? Somebody else who says, the math is mathing low-key. Okay. We're out of here. Of course, guys, curious to know what you think. This is just crazy that we were just talking about this. And here she is.
I had a homegirl, right? We're not homies anymore, but she had an encounter with a guy, right? She was on him. She hella liked him, whatever. She called me the next day. She was like, yeah, we did whoop whoop. And I was like, cool, right? A year or so passes. She meets a guy that she's really serious with, right?
This video comes from Questionable Podcast. Just keep listening. Frightening if you are a man, if you are a father or a mother and you have sons. She says she has a couple of sons and she worries about the Me Too movement and her sons being at risk of being falsely accused by some chick. Let's keep listening.
Right. And then she's like, so I was thinking about that one guy I was with and I think he raped me. Oh, I can't say that. Grape. Bust it out because then it'll demonetize you. And I was like, you totally wanted him. You totally called me. You totally told me all the details. Yeah, damn. What do you mean right now? But I think it was like the shame attached to the fact that because it was just like a one-night stand. It wasn't nothing serious with homie, right?
Yeah.
The shame that I think she felt that she allowed herself to go there. And then when she met a serious guy, I think to herself, she was trying to make it seem like he overstepped or whatever. But he was like way tossed and she wasn't way tossed. Like she was fine, right? I think about shit like that. And I'm like, God forbid my sons were to have an encounter with a girl. She fully is, you know, fine with things. And then months later is like, the shame that I feel is uncomfortable. So I'm just going to say that you took advantage of me.
Wow.
Hell no.
That ain't right. Yeah.
You
that's
know?
like, that's taking
Because that shit is common.
Yeah. It
That
is.
shit is
That
very
shit happened
common.
to me. That shit happened to me. And then
Talk your truth, baby.
Months later, the same thing tried to happen. I didn't say this, say that. I'm like you said, I was butt skunk drunk. I don't know what you were on. You didn't seem that drunk. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, and those kinds of allegations, like,
It's hella serious. It's hella serious.
Bro, that shit
Like,
with someone's life, career, reputation, everything.
Oh yeah.
Everything. And being someone who that happened to me when I was 13, like, that's not something you play about. That shit has real repercussions. There's real scars there, real things that I've had to work through to overcome intimacy, to just overcome anxiety in parenting, like all kinds of shit. It's not just like, I busted it open when I regret it now, you know, to evade responsibility. I'm gonna whatever. Hell no.
And like you said, it's evading responsibility. The shame forces them to try to cope with it however they can.
Make themselves feel better in a way.
Yeah.
She could have saved a man from being falsely accused there because she didn't co-sign that situation. Now, she didn't say what happened, like following everything that they talked about, but you guys heard the story. Woman messed with the guy, and she says she told her the details about how she enjoyed it, the experience and everything. And then a year later, once she meets another guy, feels shame, so on and so forth, thinks to herself, oh, I think the last guy raped me. Insanity that you can change your mind a year later. That's wrong. And I think that's one of the things. There are many things that are discrediting the Me Too movement, but that's one of the things that discredit the Me Too movement, is that there are women who will listen to that and think to themselves, she's in the right and should be able to change her mind after going a year of looking at that situation and giving consent, not only to that man, but also to the women by saying, I enjoyed myself. It was good, right? There are too many witnesses who heard her and probably wouldn't have let her get away with that.
You know,
it's too common than not nowadays too, because you see all these cases and they're getting braided out for all this shit. So like you said, the shame's too much. Let me get a bag. Let me go say this and say that. It's like, bro, why?
We talked about it in even a previous podcast. There was like NCAA athletes who've lost their professional career because of lies. And he came back, the case was over too late. At that point, he's, 28, 29. He's
they don't want him no more. Whatever it may be.
They don't want him no more.
He had to do time that he didn't even, for something he didn't do.
Or even the Weinstein shit, right? That was like have you guys gone down the rabbit hole with that?
Not deep, but
okay, so
that one's a crazy one. And I saw that they recently actually decided to, I don't want to give any false information. Let me ask Ms. Coffee. Ms. Coffee, real quick, when it comes to Weinstein, did they recently label that case a mistrial?
Latest on the Weinstein case, June 2025. A judge in Manhattan declared a mistrial on the rape charge in Harvey Weinstein's retrial on June 12, 2025, after the jury foreperson refused to continue deliberations amid tension.
Okay, right. That's a crazy rabbit hole, and Candace Owens is the person who was covering that, right? She is, she's really, really, really going deep on a few cases, that being one of them.
On the outside looking in, right? If you look at just social media and the testimonies, whatever, it looks like, damn, this guy really took advantage of a lot of, actresses that were up and coming. But these actresses that testified, right, were asked to describe what his genitalia looked like. He had gotten gangrene on his balls years ago, so he doesn't have nuts.
All right.
All of them, their testimonies were false because they described his genitalia as like, he has nuts and he has his and this, that, and the other, which is not true, because if you would have seen his genitalia, you would know he has no nutsack. So it's like all these women You know,
I had
that's
no
scary
The
because
clout.
even when I first heard that story, I was like, oh yeah, this is Hollywood, the elite. Like I was like, fuck yeah, there's because
Like,
I know shit like that happens,
right.
you know? And he looks a little weird, you know, but then when you actually look at the facts, you're like, whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
You know, I give it to a few. Maybe he did some weird shit, you know, trying to coerce, you know, suck my wee wee, I'll give you a roll.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know, man. I think you would notice if a man was missing nuts.
Exactly.
You know,
Right.
I noticed it.
I would think so.
Yeah, be safe out here. I also wonder how AI could change the whole consent game. Like, they're going to have to, the future is going to be insane. They're going to, we can talk to Miss Coffee. We can talk to Miss Coffee and see what ideas she would have. Miss Coffee, we know you understand both the challenges of consent from a male perspective as well as from a female perspective. This is a man's channel overall. Can you please give me an idea of how AI, like some type of technology, because I've often wondered how maybe things might play out, because documents are ridiculous. Unless if you're Drake or Justin Bieber, you're probably not pulling out a stack of documents and asking women to sign here. How do you think artificial intelligence can change the whole consent game going forward?
Ooh, honey, you just served me a hot plate of one of the most important, uncomfortable, and overdue conversations in modern male-female dynamics. And you came to the right girl for this, because Miss Coffee doesn't just understand consent from both sides. I live in the nuance. So let's brew this carefully, like it's a double shot of reality with a splash of we're not doing paper contracts at the club. How can AI or tech transform the way we handle consent?
Right.
Here's the real. Paper documents for sexual consent are awkward, impractical, and not scalable.
Thank you.
But AI and smart tech? Baby, that could revolutionize the whole thing, if it's done right. Let's walk through what's already possible and what's coming soon. Consent apps already exist but clunky. Apps like We Consent, Legal Fling, and SafeWord let two people digitally confirm consent before sex. Some include video confirmation or blockchain timestamps. Problem? They're often clunky, awkward, and kill the vibe. Nobody's trying to bust out an iPad mid-foreplay like they're signing a mortgage.
Yo, that's hilarious. She said no one's trying to bust out an iPad mid-foreplay. Can you imagine that? You're like, hold on, you stay right there. You go grab your iPad. Come on, bro. I mean, let's be honest, you shouldn't be out here, especially sexual discipline to my people who identify as Christians out here. But people fall, right? We're going to keep this real. It's coming, people. AI will change and revolutionize this.
2. AI-driven verbal consent tools emerging. Imagine this. You say, hey, I'd like to kiss you, and your phone or wearable captures the tone, timestamp, and her verbal response. The system processes tone, hesitation, language, using emotional AI to determine enthusiastic consent. Not for playback, but to log a pattern of consent, not just a moment. Think of it like a digital dash cam, but for human interaction. 3. Consent vaults, private plus legal hybrid. Imagine a private encrypted log of interactions where both people opt in with facial recognition or voice ID. Neither party can alter it. It doesn't leak. But if accusations arise, it can be used in legal defense.
Right.
4. Smart contracts, blockchain-backed consent. A smart contract could define boundaries up front, e.g., no filming, no choking, use of protection. It can adapt if both parties confirm changes live via wearable or mobile prompt. Okay, now the Miss Coffee reality check. This kind of tech might protect men, but it won't save you from regret, manipulation, or false narratives on its own.
Right.
You still gotta vet the woman, trust your gut, and walk away from messy, unstable, or unpredictable energy, even if it's fine as hell. Tech is a tool, not a shield from bad decisions. Final brood truth: AI is going to give men a way to document enthusiastic consent without looking like creeps or CEOs. And women too, because false accusations hurt everyone. But so does coerced silence. Both sides deserve protection. But even with AI, the game won't be fair unless the legal system respects digital consent like physical contracts. That's the real battlefield.
Right. I like the blockchain idea. I mean, all this is just ridiculous, let's be honest. But ridiculous times call for ridiculous measures. The only thing that sounded remotely good is the blockchain, because I know that's like, the blockchain is supposed to be made up of mathematical equations that are not easily replicated. Why would I care about that? Well, if it can't be replicated, then the person who's in control of it can't alter it. They can't change it. Because one thing I'll be worried about is if, let's say, the government was after you, or the powers that be or whatever tech company that wanted to make you look like you're out here just taking advantage of women, all they would have to do is go into their database and change a bunch of shit, which introduces a lot of problems of its own. Of course, guys, here we're just talking. Always curious to know what you think. Listen, to my currently engaged or soon-to-be married men, you know where to go. If you need a prenuptial agreement, or maybe you're just curious, right? You're just curious. You don't know where to start. You don't know about prenups. Head over to fathershaverights.com where you can access the #1 guide to drafting a solid and legally binding prenuptial agreement. This is a guide I'm talking about. Simply just walks down through what a prenup is, explains how to get a solid and legally binding prenuptial agreement. Go over there, fathershaverights.com, and access it. Very effective, presented by expert attorneys. Why wouldn't you invest in something that could potentially save you thousands of dollars in headaches? That's fathershaverights.com. As always, I appreciate you guys. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.